Good afternoon, everyone. Migrant leaders, mentees, and mentors. Welcome to our monthly Connect conference. I'm Elham Fardod, as you know, and I'm the founder and CEO of the charity Migrant Leaders. We are very happy to welcome you as a way of connecting our mentors and mentees, having the opportunity to hear from two or three mentors each month on their interesting career stories, very diverse career stories. And then we will be into breakout rooms by sector so that mentees can actually select which sector breakout rooms on Zoom they join, and mentors who feel they have expertise in those sectors and professions can join their respective breakout room. We will also have a general main room. If you don't want to go into a sector breakout room, you can stay in the main room and I will conduct a Q&A. So without further ado, I'd like to first of all ask everyone in terms of housekeeping to rename their login details into Zoom, rename themselves as mentor or mentee, depending if you're a mentor or mentee, and also your full name, please, so that we always know who we're talking to, whether it's a mentor or a mentee, and what their full name is. If I leave you for 30 seconds to rename yourselves on Zoom, I'd be very grateful. And shortly after that, I am also asking you, by way of an icebreaker, mentors and mentees, to write down in the chat where in the country today you have joined us from. So I will be putting Rickmansworth, and each of you please put down in the chat where you're coming from. And perhaps, Mohammed, as you are in charge of the chat, could you please read out some of the places?
Of course. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Mohammed, and I'm part of the Migrant Leaders team. We're already getting loads of answers in the chat, starting with Cambridge, Oxford, Leeds, Luton, West London, London. Great mix of locations.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Mohammed. And a great introduction to you as well, because you've joined a few months ago with the Migrant Leaders team, and we are delighted to be expanding our team and the support that we give mentors and mentees. So the next thing on the agenda is the 3 mentor career stories. Just to break the ice a little bit, I will start with my own career story. And after that, I will hand over to Nick, who will then hand over to Enrique. So, everyone, it's no big secret. I launched Migrant Leaders 7 years ago, back in 2017, as a registered charity. Where we are today is that we've got 3,500 young people on our 5-year development program, which we provide completely free of charge. And we work with corporate partners. We've got 2,000 mentors from 95 companies who have volunteered with Migrant Leaders and get connected to our mentees. We also work with large corporate partners to deliver workshops, training, work experiences, internships, connections, and a lot more. So, a very comprehensive program. Why did I launch this 7 years ago? Because after spending 23 years in finance in large corporates, in GE as a financial controller, and later on as a finance director in News Corp, and 10 years in EY finance advisory working for corporate clients, I thought, really, what has changed in society today? I've done all right in my own career, but is that enough? There are still lots of young first and second generation migrants facing pretty much the same challenges I faced 30, 35 years ago. So I launched Migrant Leaders for that reason. Life for me wasn't always this good. When I was 18 years old. I was just a young migrant growing up in Birmingham. We moved from Iran when I was 13 years old. I did pretty well in education. I went through to three state schools in 3 years, but I did well in my grades and in education. But by the time I was 18, I had lost everything. My family separated. We had visa and financial problems, and I had my little brother to look after. So at the age of 18, this is so fundamental to my career story. At the age of 18, I decided that I must go to university if I am to get myself and my family out of this situation. So I thought I really need to go to university, but I had a problem. The problem was, as a young migrant, only in this country for a few years, I would have been counted as a foreign student. And that's a problem that many migrant students still face. And I couldn't pay foreign student fees. When I was a teenager, I used to teach maths to anyone whose parents were willing to pay. I used to sell perfumes door to door. I saved up as much as I could, but it was never going to be enough. And in fact, I earmarked that money for my little brother. So I was once again penniless at 18. So I decided the only way I could go to university was going to be if the British government would count me as a home student so that they would pay for my tuition fees. And back then, at 18 and a young Iranian migrant in Birmingham, I knew that we have city councils. So I thought that's the government. And I decided to camp outside Birmingham City Council offices until somebody agrees to see me. And it took 3 days. I managed to see someone on the third day, luckily, and they helped me. They listened to my pitch, which was essentially that this is my situation. I have to go to university. All I want to do is go to university, get a graduate job, pay my taxes, and be a useful member of British society. That's all I want. And they really listened to that. So I went to university, did accounting and finance, and fast forward to the time I was 25 years old. I was a newly qualified accountant, 25 years old, and I got my first big break, my first big job really, as a financial controller in GE when I was 25. And really, the rest is history. That set me up for life. It was an amazing time because GE put me on their advanced financial leadership program, flew me everywhere for training. I had rapid promotions, lots of further training in terms of Six Sigma. I even managed to talk to my bosses at GE to sponsor my Warwick University executive MBA. So once I had qualified as an accountant, I the next jump educationally was going to be an executive MBA while working full time for GE, and they paid for that. So that really set me up for life. And that's precisely why I went on to launch Migrant Leaders all those years ago. Because in 2021, the Institute for Fiscal Studies published a report called the Dayton Review. And that report said that in the UK, migrant children Migrant children have double the rate of university degrees compared to the white British majority. Double the rate of university degrees. However, even though these migrant children are attaining such educational feat, despite their relative socioeconomic disadvantages, they still have double the rate of university degrees. But when it comes to the employment market, they are actually 6% behind in employment rates, and even further behind the white British majority. The migrant children are even further behind in attaining professional jobs and managerial progression. So that kind of gives you the problem statement that Migrant Leaders charity is trying to solve, trying to take this drive that migrants have to achieve educationally and making sure that they fulfill their potential in the labor market, more specifically in large corporates, which is predominantly the space that migrant leaders operates in. And that is really the story of my career. And I really hope to devote the rest of my life to migrant leaders, not just the rest of my professional life, but the rest of my life to devote to migrant leaders. And I'm really glad to be here and really grateful to our mentors for supporting us and for our mentees for doing us proud in front of all the corporate partners and mentors. So, without further ado, I am going to pass on to Nick, who will kindly tell us about his career story. Thank you.
Thanks, Elham. Appreciate hearing your story. It's very interesting. I think it's the first time I've heard that all the way through. I think we've spoken before, but not gone into that detail. So, really interesting to hear. So, so for those of you who don't know me, my name is Nick Paul. My career story is quite different to Elham's, but yeah, I started off at school. I did GCSEs and A levels through the course of the 90s. Graduated my high school with A levels in maths, design and technology, and ancient Greek, which is a bit of a weird combination that leaves you wondering, you know, what do I do career-wise with those three subjects under my belt at A level? At that point, that was 1994. Computers were the in thing at that point. They were just kicking off. Email was just it was just coming into fashion. So people were starting to use it. The universities were starting to use it, but we didn't have mobile phones in those days, and it was all very different to where we are today. So I ended up going from school to Exeter University to do a computer science degree there, and I graduated with a computer science degree. Again, kind of got to the end of that process and thought, what do I do with that? So, because the course was very theory based, so it was more about how what's the logic of computers, how do computers work, rather than the programming side of it. But obviously, when people see computer science on your educational CV, they think you are good at programming. You can understand how to program websites and build tools and do all this kind of stuff. So when I was looking for jobs and I joined agencies to get me in the door for interviews and stuff like that, they were always putting me forward for programming jobs. And I went to a number of different interviews with a number of different companies, all for programming jobs. And all of them came back to me and said, you're a really nice guy, you interview really well, but you're not strong in the programming field. We can't give you the job. And eventually what happened was that happened about 12 times. So I was getting a bit demoralized by this point, despite me telling the agencies, I'm not a programmer, to stop putting me forward for these jobs. But I did end up in an interview with a small software company at the time called Reference Point. And Reference Point at the time were doing educational tracking software. So for like MVQs, GMVQs, GCSEs, whatever it happens to be, there's a set of modules and courses you need to go through. They had a set of software tools that would enable you to track your progress and allow colleges and universities to track progress of students through those particular qualifications. Again, went in for a programmer's job, didn't get it, but they came back to me two weeks later with a job they created specifically for me, because I interviewed really well, they liked me, and they created this role specifically for me. And that was a telephone support role. So literally customers would ring up if they've got a problem with the software, it's not working properly. I'd speak to them on the phone, talk them through how to fix it, or what the problem was, send them out new versions of the software if that was what we needed to do. And that was my first job. And I loved that job. I loved that company, what got on really well. And eventually they expanded into what I would call on-site qualification tracking. So smart card technology that we've all got today. If you go to big corporate companies, everyone's got a smart card on there that allows them to get into buildings, get out of buildings, and all that kind of stuff. For the construction industry, they use those cards to hold the person's qualification. So if they go onto a building site, for example, and they're doing stuff in a confined space, the site manager can check by scanning the cards that they have the right qualifications to do that job at that time, and they're still within that window. So Reference Point was the first company to stand that up. And now Reference Point have recently, I think, just been taken over by Causeway as the single biggest provider of smart card on-site qualification things. And they put me on point to be project manager of the first rollout of that. So for me, that was a massive break in my career, gave me the insights as to what project management was for me, because I didn't really understand what that was at the time, but really got into it through my development through that company. BAA, which at the time, it stands for the British Airport Authority, for those of you that aren't aware of that, because I think it's disbanded now as a company, but they had 7 of the biggest airports in the country. So you had Heathrow, Gatwick, Stansted, Southampton, Aberdeen, Edinburgh, and Glasgow. They were all BAA airports, and I got a job. And Reference Point actually delivered the smart card solution to BAA, and I happened to work closely with the project managers at that company at that time, working with them to deliver that solution. And I reached a point after 8.5 years at Reference Point where I needed a change and wanted to push myself out of my comfort zone. So I contacted those guys, my contacts at BAA, and they got me a role as a project manager at Heathrow. So I was based out of Heathrow, running a number of different types of projects, from asset management systems for fire stations, online recruitment tools, terminal simulation tools. If you go to Terminal 3 today and you look at the self-service check-in desks, where you stick your passports in to register and get your boarding pass, all that kind of stuff. The first generation of kiosks that went into Terminal 3 and Terminal 1 at the time, and Terminal 4, was a project that I managed. And I got through the door. So I had to work with 26 different airlines at the same time, because they're all shared kiosks. And they've all got to have their own software working at the same time on the same kiosk, same hardware. So you've got to manage 26 airlines, all with slightly different agendas, slightly different things they want to achieve, and build a plan that they all agree to and all abide to, pretty much down to the day when it comes to testing and stuff like that. So that was a major challenge. And that, again, all those projects I worked there, absolutely loved it. Sorry, it wasn't 8.5 years at Reference Point. It was slightly less than that. It was more like 8.5 years at BAA. Got that bit wrong for clarity. So anyway, I then, at that point while I was at BAA, I got married. I got ill. I had cancer for a while. And then as a result of the cancer, that kind of ruined the relationship I had with my wife at the time. So we ended up getting divorced. So there was quite a lot going on in that space for me personally. And after 8.5 years and the divorce finalised, I met someone else. And that person was introduced to me by my cousin, who lives in Edinburgh, weirdly, quite a long way away. So I ended up in a long distance relationship with this girl, and ended up at the point where we either ended up splitting up or I moved up to live with her. She had 2 kids, wasn't going to move back down here. So I moved up there, quit my job at Heathrow, got the job at Sky. It was based up in Livingston, and worked as a project manager for them within their bidding systems area, technology area. So Sky TV, Sky Mobile, they have specific bidding systems that work for them. I worked in that area for about a year, and then jumped out of that job into a program manager job at a company called Bodycote, who deal with kind of heat treatment and thermal processing for metals. So all the car parts and widgets and doors and stuff get treated at their sites and then get sent back to the manufacturers to be installed in cars or whatever it happens to be. But it's a very technical, very manufacturing based world. And they're in 26 countries with about 3,000 3,000 to 4,000 people across those, and they wanted to put a global ERP system that centralized and globalized their processes, their data storage, their information gathering, all of that kind of stuff. So worked on that program with them for 2 years, and then decided it was time for me to move back down to High Wycombe, which is where I am today. And I got my job at National Grid. And I've been at National Grid now for 11 years as of January. I'm now program director for them, and I've delivered a number of the most complicated IT programs they've had. I've built out at least six data centers from scratch, fitted them out, kitted them out, moved applications and services from old data centers to new data centers. One of which we had to get out of the data center because it was due to be demolished in March. A couple of years ago, we had to be out by February. We managed to do that on time, thankfully, because otherwise that would have been a disaster. And I am now leading a program that is upgrading one of the core networks we have in the company or in the country, which is worth, the value of that program is £300 million, and it's one of the most challenging things I've ever done, but absolutely love it. It's great fun, really enjoy what I do. One of the things I've absolutely learned through my career is you need a high performing team behind you, or to help manage the work. You need to be able to identify what skills you need in the teams, how to communicate with people to get the right skills in the team. So, for example, you need completer finishers to get stuff done, but you also need ideas people. People are going to think in the blue sky and think, oh, we could do that totally different. No idea how to implement it, but the completer finishers will do that for you if you get the right blend in there. So you've got to build your teams in the right way. You need quiet people, you need loud people, you need a combination of people to create a kind of productive dynamic, if you like, is the phrase I would use. That there's tension in the team, so you don't always agree, but you've all got the common goal to get to where you need to be. And that skill is something I've developed over the years and worked out who works well together, who can do what's the best fit for these people in these teams to get the job done. So I've built that skill up, as well as then also building the skill up. But how do I communicate what's happening on the ground to the people at the exec level that need to understand from a stakeholder perspective what's going on, what the challenges are, what the escalations are, how they can help without them diving into the detail. And because once high level people dive into the detail, the world goes a bit crazy and a bit mad, which isn't something anyone ever wants to do. So what I've done with my teams is I've built my teams in such a way that the personalities and the way they grow within my team is through coaching and mentoring them for them to build their own confidence up, to become self-sufficient and have the abilities to come up with solutions to the problems they come to me with, rather than just come with a problem and go, Nick, how are you going to solve that? Which does happen, clearly. Not everyone can solve every problem all the time, but I think it's important that people recognize the ability to say, I have a problem here. There's a couple of different solutions we can come up with. Nick, what do you think? Let's talk them through. And that kind of coaching, mentoring approach has really helped those teams become the high-performing, high delivery teams they are. And what I've realised in the last 12 to 18 months is I want to expand that further to beyond just the teams I'm working within in the company, but set up my own company as a coach and a mentor to help people like you guys on the call today to say, you've got careers in front of you. How can I help you get to where you want to be? What kind of conversations do you need? Even if it's a safe space that says, let's just talk things through. Talk through what your issues are. Let's understand where you're coming from, what you need, what sort of challenges you've got, and we can work through those challenges together. So that's kind of why Elham and I got in touch, and I agreed I was going to be a mentor for you guys and help as much as I can. That's basically why I'm here. I'm sure we'll talk again soon, but I'm going to hand over to Enrique right now, I think.
Thank you, Paul. Nick?
No worries. Everyone does that once.
I'm done now. Again. Enrique, welcome. Thank you so
Yes.
Thank you so much for telling us your career story. And by the way, I love the scrilly Spanish flag, British flag thing you've done.
Thank you. So I'm very excited to be with everyone here. Thanks, Elham and the Migrant Leaders team for this opportunity. So yeah, as you can see for the flags, I'm Enrique and I'm Spanish, and I was born in Sevilla. You may see that a little bit of a background. A beautiful city that I recommend everyone to visit. So yeah, back of more than 10 years ago, I started my career starting in the university where I decided to to be an engineer, and I was looking for a challenge. So I wanted to choose the most difficult degree, and back in that time was the aerospace. So I worked very hard to go into there, and then I started on that degree that it took me 4 years and was out of perseverance and a hard work in order to go through this process and achieve to become an aerospace engineer. At this point, after that, I also wanted a new challenge, working in a big company, and Airbus is back in there in Sevilla. So I wanted to get a position there, and I have the chance to do an internship. And then after this, I wanted to do 1 year program, so I applied for one position. And do you know what happened? I failed. I didn't get the position. It was my dream position. That's the job that I currently do now, about lean manufacturing. That is all about continuous improvement, how I can improve the processes in manufacturing environment, how we can work more efficient with the people that we have. And I couldn't get it because my English was really bad back then. So what I did is I just start practicing, try to meet people, improve my English, and then I found a new position. In this case, I got it. And I spent 1 year there as a production and process engineer, and it was an amazing opportunity to learn for a best-in-class company like Airbus, and definitely something that I recommend everyone at some point in their career to work with a best-in-class company, because you will learn a lot, and the best, very good practices that you can do in other businesses later on. Back then in the university, I didn't have the chance to do Erasmus, to go abroad. And I'm a very curious person. I like to learn. So I decided to find an opportunity in any country, and the UK was the first one that offered me the opportunity. So I got a position in one of the biggest metal packaging multinational companies, Crown Holdings. And I was the process and improvement coordinator in Nottingham, in a small factory in close by Nottingham. And I was making these biscuit tins that you can see there, Quality Street and the like. So I was working very closely with the people there to improve the different processes, to improve the productivity. During this period, I moved to a new country, so I have to change a lot. I have to become independent. I have to do everything in my own. And I do also have to understand the different accents in the UK, particularly in this place where I work. It was a little bit challenging. It took me a few months to understand the meaning of lad. That was everyone was saying hello every day, hey lad. But yeah, I managed. I have a great time with them. And during this time, I managed to travel a lot with my friends. So I wanted to get a new challenge after 1 year. So I was lucky enough to move to a different division in my company, making beverage cans. and I took a European position as the operational excellence leader. Again, in this case, I was looking at how to improve the efficiency of the lines with the people, working with the people, training them, coaching them, and in the 27 factories across 17 countries back then. So I very enjoyed this, and during this period, I faced a lot of different cultures to work with. So I was thinking I would do the things in the same way, and then I go to a country, and doesn't work. It's just because the people think in a different way, the culture is different. So at this point, I have to learn. I need to adapt my leadership style depending on the people I'm working with. So I have to do out of listening, out of empathy, and adapt my way of working with the different people. So I was so interested in different countries and about traveling that I was lucky enough to marry someone from a different country. This turned to be the best decision ever in my life, in my career. This has also changed myself a lot, really understanding different culture, really push myself to learn different languages and to think outside the box in any kind of situation. So I don't recommend everyone to get married somewhere with a different country, but hey, it's an unbelievable experience, so you can give a go. Then I was quite curious. I wanted to increase my responsibility. I have the chance to do a lot of impact with data. I start working in a lot of data projects to improve the productivity and the finance into the different factories. And then after this, I couldn't grow anymore. I was thinking a lot about the company. I wasn't thinking about myself. And at this point, I realized the career is all about you. If you want to do something, if you want to change it, just go and change it. So at this point, I decided to find a new opportunity, the next step in my career. And again, I changed company and I joined one of the biggest chemical companies, multinational companies for paint, which is PPG. And at this point, still I'm here. I'm the European responsible for continuous improvements. So I make all the paints related to aircraft now. So before I was working in aircraft, then I moved to making cans for any different customer with different colors. So I learned the paint. Then I mix both of them and I'm making now the paint for the different airplanes. So again, this is an amazing experience. I really like the aerospace business. I can see what I make into an airplane. If I go to Heathrow and I see the British Airways, I know that paint is made by my company. So I feel really proud about what we make. So in here, I wanted to grow and I wanted to start leading teams. That's why I took this new challenge. So now at this point, I start working a lot about how to develop others. So similar to Nick, I start working a lot about mentoring and coaching. It's not about me delivering. I know I can deliver. I've done it. I've been successful about that, but I work in a team. So I need to make the team successful so we can all achieve our different goals. So for me, when I work in a team, I don't want to be the boss. I just want to be a leader. So I'm part of the team. I'm part of the change, and I work together with them to achieve anything we propose ourselves. In this opportunity, also I have the chance to start working with digital projects instead of doing things manually, how to improve machines, now to use more digital, to use big data even now leading some artificial intelligence projects with data. That's something that I really love. I've been doing continuous improvement during all these years, but now the new way is coming now. We are using more data, big data, and I love to make it impact using this data and new tools. It's something that I keep learning now, and I'm very passionate about it. At that point, when I started in PPG, and I started realize I've been lucky to be where I've been, so I wanted to start giving back some of the things that I know. I was thinking myself back in the university where I have no clue what to do after that, and I thought I wish I have a mentor that can help me to know what is there when I go to the business world. That is completely different to the university. What can I do? Which advice? So I was lucky to find migrant leaders back then, get in touch with Elham and Fausia, and start this journey that has been very amazing so far. I think I mentor almost now 10 different mentees all these years. And for me, mentoring is part of my life. It's something that I do in my business, and I also do outside of my business with migrant leaders. And really, mentoring for me changed a bad day into a good day. So definitely, for me, it gives me a lot of energy, and I know it can change myself if I have a tough day. I have a mentoring session, and then it gives me a lot of energy. And for the future, I don't know what's coming in the future. I just want to keep my motivation, my energy, find a new challenge. And what I just want to tell you is, in the future, you want to be what you want to be. You just need to believe on that, work hard, and make it happen. I learned in my career that it's all about you. You can maybe try to compete with people in the university, things like that, but at some point you realize that it's always up to you. So whatever we want to achieve, you can do it. Just go for it.
Thank you so much, Enrique. That was brilliant. Thank you so much. And we are next going to be moving to the networking sessions. Before I hand over to Fausia to explain the mechanics of the Zoom breakout rooms, I will explain the concept. So our Connect conferences, not only we want to present and share mentor career stories, but we also want to give an opportunity to mentors and mentees in a smaller settings to meet each other and network. Mentors in the sector breakout rooms, mentors will meet mentees who are interested in their professions and industry sectors. And if they get on well and they think there's a good connection, mentors could later enter the name of the mentee or mentees that they met in the sector room and even connect with them on the Migrant Leaders app and become their mentor. We now have that functionality on the Migrant Leaders app where mentors can search for mentee names and find them. So based on the mentors who registered to attend this month's Connect conference, we have 3 breakout rooms. First sector is technology and engineering, which will be facilitated by Adam from the Migrant Leaders team. The next one will be science and medicine, which will be facilitated by Fausia from our Migrant Leaders team. And the third one will be finance, legal, and consulting, which will be facilitated by Mohammed, who you briefly met earlier in the conference. There will be this general section as well, which is where we are now. This general one, those mentees and mentors who don't want to move to a sector room, or feel that they don't really belong to any of those three sectors can stay in this general room, and I will conduct a Q&A session and discussion, facilitated discussion. So without further ado, I'm going to pass the next 20 minutes of networking and Zoom sector breakout rooms to Fawzia.
Thanks very much, Alham. So hi, everybody. Thank you all for joining us. Just quickly, for anybody that's joined us a bit later than our start time, you'll see that some of us have put mentor or mentee in their name on Zoom. If you could also do that, it will just help us all identify everybody's roles, and it will make it easier for mentors to identify mentees that they might connect with on our app. So if you don't mind taking a second to do that, that would be wonderful. So we are going to open 3 breakout rooms. They're all named. So we've got tech and engineering, science and medicine, finance, legal and consulting. You may choose to join whichever one you want to. And if you choose not to join one of those breakout rooms, stay where you are in the main room and Elham will look after you. I'm going to open it now. The breakout rooms will close automatically after 20 minutes when we'll all come back to the main room and we can feed back then. Okay, thanks very much, everybody, and enjoy the breakout room.
We'll just take a couple of minutes for any final questions and answers. Can I ask mentees if you have any questions from the mentors? Please ask by typing it in the chat room, and we have time only for a couple of questions. Mohammed, would you like to field the first question?
Sure, yes. So there's a question for Enrique from the conversation we had earlier. So the question is, what are some of the most common challenges you face in operations management, and how do you approach solving them?
So the main challenge I face every day is just to change the way how the people work, just to find the best way to do something, and how to show them the way to work together to do that. And for that, I basically, just to try to coach them about what we want to achieve, and then find a way to work together, to use any tool, to build any process, to find a solution, but always doing together with them. So wherever we implement, wherever we improve, they will believe on that, and they will sustain and use it in the future.
Thank you so much, Enrique. We have time for only one more question. Mohammed, do you want to go for the next question fielding?
I also received another question, and this was directed at Nick. So, Nick, what career advice would you give someone aspiring to work in the energy sector, especially in the technical and strategic role like yours?
What advice would I say? What I would suggest is read up. Spend a lot of time reading about what the field is. National Grid, if you look at the website, there's a bunch of stuff on there that you could read about what the energy sector is about, what it does, what we do as a company right now. Not specifically saying National Grid, but it's kind of key to the whole energy sector right now because it provides the infrastructure and transmission systems and all this other stuff that goes with it. But yeah, if it's enthusiastic to you, read up about it, get involved. Get involved, read articles, put your name out there on some social media, talk to me, talk to others in the industry, find out a bit more about it. There are graduate schemes, there are all sorts of schemes you can get involved in that will give you all sorts of information and experience in those areas. It's like we said in the breakout area, I think if you've got an interest in certain things and it makes you want to get up in the morning, makes you enthusiastic about it, do what you can to understand what that looks like and get involved, make the contacts you can. you know, you've got me on this call right now. There are others, people that we could, you know, I could maybe put you in touch with if you wanted to. We could have a conversation around what it is, but it's be enthusiastic and be who you are and be true to yourself. And if that's truly something you want to do, I'm a believer that will happen, right? You can, anyone on this call could do anything they want to do. They've just got to have the courage to stand up and want to do it. And if you make that step and want to make that, you know, take that challenge up and make that decision, you can do whatever you like. Just be on the lookout for as much information. There's loads of industry jobs you can get within the energy sector. It's not just, you know, as power system engineering is working in control rooms. There's transition works, engineering types, building pylons. There's balancing supply and demand of electricity and gas. There's all sorts of stuff you can do. So working in a sector will still gives you the opportunity to work in IT and infrastructure, in finance, in all sorts of areas you want to work in. So yeah, it's great that you've got that vision, and I'm happy to pick up with you separately if you want to, and we can have a conversation. Not a problem.
Thank you so much. Mohammed, could we squeeze in one more question? I know we are running slightly over time.
So this is more of a general question we received. It is, what is one piece of advice you give someone who is exploring future careers before going to university?
Maybe I could have a go at that one. And maybe just slightly reframe the question is, what's the advice I would give myself X number of years ago, where X is a big number? And I think it is get to know as many people as you can, network as well as you can, and listen to their advice and take it on board, really reflect on what they're sharing. That's one of the things I think this is a great organization, because it just gives you that opportunity to get you know, get some advice from experienced folks.
Thank you so much. And other migrant leaders mentors, if anyone wants to share any further advice for our mentees, please feel free to do so.
I just wanted to add one thing about not closing yourself off to things that you don't quite know or you've not fully investigated into, because I was very close to doing that with anything science-based, just due to my lack of background in science, and a lot of the people I work with are clinicians by background. So, you know, don't close yourself off to things. I think it's really important to get as much experience as you can in roles that you've never heard of, and go shadowing people. And I think you might just find something that you're absolutely in love with, and you don't even know it's out there. So really don't close yourself off, and experience as much as you can, take shadowing opportunities and learn about roles before you kind of rule them out on paper.
Wonderful advice. And on that note, I'd like to thank all our mentors for joining us, particularly Enrique and Nick. Thank you so much for telling your career story early on. I hope that both mentors and mentees enjoyed the breakout rooms where they could have conversations and share tips and connect in a smaller setting. And I look forward to seeing you all next time. Thank you.